There we go. So today we are going to talk about the final project. More specifically, we're going to talk about the first part, which is the outline. And so what I figured we would do today is I'm going to bring up the project. I'm going to talk through it a little bit. I've got some more examples for you to show. I've got an art one and I've got another PE one. I've got a math one actually, because sometimes my K-12 students who are taking this class for their 6 to 12 certification decide, you know, I think math is where I want to be, and that's 100% okay. I think my girl did algebra last semester. And then I have a couple more. I think I have 2 art, 2 PE, and a couple more I'm going to show you. And then I also went through and I took all of your questions out of the Google form and I made a Google Doc with all my answers and some helpful links in there. And we'll talk about those as well. So let me close all my bingo cards here. And there you guys are. Okay, so here is our class. And I want to go into assignments here into the project. So when you're looking at the project assignment sheet, it downloads into a Word doc, which I already have open. Nope, that's my PE one. I have 12. There we go. And it gives you a document that I would say you probably want to kind of print and just kind of mark off as you do stuff. You probably, as a student, I know I never did, care too much about like the description, the purpose, the objectives, that type of thing. However, what you're probably most interested in are the guidelines. What exactly do I turn into you to get my grade and to demonstrate that, you know, I'm an expert in this subject area? So here under the guidelines, you see that the project has 3 sections, Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3. 1 is what we call the research component, where you're going in and you're going to explain and define what disciplinary literacy is in your area. And you'll explain your research process, like how you came about this definition, what articles you read, what, you know, maybe from class or the book helped you come across or build up this definition. Part 2 is your application. So that's where you write your big lesson plan, or if you want to call it a unit plan, but it's focused around a problem. You pick some type of reading for students to do. You incorporate, you know, any kind of multimedia stuff, additional text. A lot of students do video. It's become very popular across the discipline. You know, I like my students to watch this YouTube video. I want them to use this fun tech tool, whatever it is. And then in D, E, and F, this is where you pick strategies. So you have to have 3 strategies per section. Here in part 3 is the U part. You've been doing this all semester. This is where you reflect. What was easy and logical for you? What was challenging? And what benefits now could you see for your future classroom? So when you put together your project, you'll have 3 sections. You can use these headings, and if you want, you can have, you know, just APA style bolded heading. And you can put in all of your strategies. You can actually make a little KWL chart if you want to. You can show me all the different things that you would do in your lesson plan. Before you start actually thinking about this big project and stressing and saying, oh my goodness, 7 pages, which by the way, most people go way over 7 pages by the time you're creating like worksheets or examples, and you know, people always want to make a lot of things to go with their lesson plan. The first step is to make an outline. And so what we're going to focus on today is the outline. You have 2 English examples in Blackboard, and then I have additional ones that I'm going to use for our lecture today. One of the things that I want to say is next week when we meet, I will be going over example projects. So I've given you a couple in Blackboard, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull an art one, a physical education one. I'm going to pull more examples, and then I'll spend Tuesday's class talking about what was good in them and showing them to you and talking about what could have been improved and show you where points were deducted. And so these next 2 classes are really me talking about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and how I can help if I need to. So the second thing I want to look at together, let me choose this. I've got so much scholarship stuff open. That's just crazy. I mean, I've got so much stuff open. What is going on here? Okay, so let me look here. There's a little chat. Oh, no worries, Andrea. If you have additional questions that don't get answered or that no one submitted, you can always email me too. Where is my rubric? I'm gonna have to open all of these. Art. I guess I can close this one. There it is. So here's the rubric, and it's pretty straightforward. I can tell you that the average on the assignment is a 93. So everyone does pretty well at this point in planning their lesson and really reflecting. Most of you are getting ready to go into student teaching within the next semester or two. So you've planned a lot of lessons, you know your content area pretty well, and you should feel really empowered coming in here. The main thing that you're going to spend the most time on is probably going back through the book and going back through the lectures and really pulling it all together and saying, here's a vocabulary strategy I like. Hopefully, hint, you can look back at your reflections that you did each week and you can say, oh, that's right, I liked this strategy. Let me go find it and I'm going to put it here in my project. That was sort of my secret there with having you do that section on your reflections. So here, the first objective is to show that you can articulate disciplinary literacy in your area. So you have to define it and ground it in research. And I'll talk more about that in a second. The second thing you have to do is you have to be able to explain what literacy methods or strategies are important for your students. So you have to have 3 strategies for each section, D, E, and F. That's a total of 9 strategies. You have to show that you understand the discipline and the data and the text for your content area. So if you said you were going to do a KWL, you said that you'd have students fill in what they know, what they want to know, what they learned, and you would explain that. If you say you're going to have students do a KWL and you're going to have them do it at home and turn it in, that's not really the strategy, right? So I would say, I don't know if you 100% understand it. You have to frame your disciplinary literacy target within your problem and within your disciplinary area. And so I'll show you how other students have done that today. And then you have to use APA, which a few of you had questions about, so we'll talk about it. So I figured today I would start with the actual examples that I gave you. So here's the first example that I gave you, and this was for English. Both of them were. I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, K through 12 teachers who are taking this class as a part of their 6 through 12 requirement choose language arts or English because, of course, anything with literacy and reading lends itself easily to English class. So this person had a short little answer here for what it means to be literate in English. The idea here for the project or the lesson plan that's inquiry-based was for students to pretend they are a boss at a major company and they need their employees to come in and work over the weekend. And so you're writing an email that convinces them to do so. She says she's going to use a book by Eric van der Steen, and she's going to talk about authority versus persuasion because that's part of this SOL for English. This is 11th grade English. She talks about a video she wants to show kids. Down here, she doesn't have much yet. She's missing. She should have Roman numeral, or she should have D, and then she should have 1, 2, and 3. So for analyzing summaries and synthesizing findings, she only says selective reading guide. That's it. That's her one strategy that she chose. So when my feedback came back, I said, hey, you got to have 3, right? You could think of it as you're giving students the choice between the 3, or you can think about it as I would do this one on day 1 and this one on day 2. It's up to you, but you have to have 3. Same thing here with examining and evaluating claims. She's like, I'd give my kids a graphic organizer, a worksheet. Perfectly fine. Graphic organizers are a lot of fun, but you have to have 3 strategies here. And for communicating claims, again, she needed to have 3 strategies. She's got a great start though, really great start. And then she talks about what her reflection is, which is personal. That's not something, that is going to be standard for everybody. Now, On my other example, this student was far, far more detailed. So she sort of goes really deep about what it means to be literate in her area. She talks about how she arrived clearly at the definition, and she talks about an article she read on Edutopia. And you might think, well, Edutopia, that's not like an academic resource. It's not like in a journal. No, but if you find websites that are for your content area, for instance, from the National Council for Teachers of English, from NCTE, or Edutopia, or a website like Read, Write, Think, or a website that has been around and is really reliable and you trust, you can use it for this project. So, this was fine by me. So here's what she did. Her lesson plan is all going to be about what do the characters, events, and literary devices in the novel Speak, which I'm sure many of you have read, represent for real life society. Okay, and then she talks about she's using the book Speak. She talks about she wants students to find articles. Then she talks about some strategies, not a lot. She talks about wanting them to have a critical based discussion. She talks about them finding and then pitching arguments to the class. That's it. So when I read this, I was like, wow, you're really great in starting to think about your definition. You found an academic article. Edutopia is a good one. It's also a web page. And I like your problem. What are students trying to think about? And your text is good, but down here, you're going to have to flesh it out a little better. For instance, one of the themes in Speak is rape. So how do you approach that with children? And so we talked about multimedia that would be important, or additional readings or text that would be important. Then for down here, we went through, and on the outline, I gave her specific ideas. You want students to have an argument. So what kind of strategies did we talk about for having discussion? Would you like to do a Socratic seminar? Would you like to do a fishbowl? What would you do with kids? A foursquare? And so she went through and she really started to choose her strategies. So let me stop for a second before I go on. Oops, let me get out of here. How is your mind working right now? Are you already thinking about the lesson you want to plan? Yeah. Do you have an idea of something that you enjoy teaching? Think about all those SOLs in your content area, or pick a grade, right? Pull up 10th grade health and PE standards. Or if you're thinking of doing elementary school, pull up the 4th grade ones. What do you like there? What would be fun for you to teach? Are you more of like the movement person, or do you prefer the, health side of things? If you're art, you've got that option, right? Are you going to look at being the elementary art teacher? Or are you going to look at teaching high school and doing the credits? When you pull up the SOLs, which ones do you like the most? When it comes to classes where you have to plan a unit plan or a big lesson that has multiple strategies and multiple different activities for kids, go with what you like, because you'll enjoy writing this 100 times better, right? If you pick something you like. Do we like everything we have to teach as teachers? You guys know I don't like American literature. And one year I got stuck with American Lit, and I swear those kids were miserable. I was like, all right, now we're doing trees and God for 300 years. Get ready. And they were like, oh, yep, the sky is beautiful. So are the trees. So you can't always love everything. So for this class, I know sometimes students will say, well, I'm trying to push myself, do something I've never done before. Stick with what you know, okay? And focus on learning and showing me the strategies there. So let me transfer back and talk to you about some of the content areas. I'm not going to go through in as much detail, but I still want to show you. So this one is a PE example. Okay, so just just beginning to really think about what it means to be literate in PE. The thing that is missing here is really some connection. There's no reference to anything that was read in the book or read through the annotated bibliography or class discussion or going out and finding, because this assignment requires you to use 4 resources, going out and starting to find some of those academic resources. So this is just beginning here. But he did get a really good start on thinking about the problem. So what he was thinking about is he was thinking like secondary, advanced PE. And he was thinking that he would have students who wanted to be PE teachers. And so he would present the problem to them that, hey, imagine you're me and you're a PE teacher and you receive an email from a concerned parent wondering if you know the proper procedures for first aid and CPR. And he tied this into the SOLs. He found the CPR guide and the first aid guide that is given in the class that they talk about and go over. And he came up with ideas on how to teach the students through this. So giving them articles to read, having them do article summaries, summarizing with the class, and then engaging in discussion. As you can see, he's just beginning. He hasn't said what strategy of discussion he's planning to use yet. He ended up deciding, I can tell you, on Socratic Seminar because he just really liked that way of doing discussion, but everybody's different. Evaluating and examining claims. He ended up doing the 2-column Cornell notes. He felt like that was how he learned best, and he liked to do that as well. Totally fine. And so that's what he came up with for his just beginning to think about, topics in PE. Let me show you another one. This one is going to be English. Hold on, I'll come back to that. And that one is art. I thought I had one more. Yeah, let me go do music. So music students, I gotta say, you guys always turn in the most beautiful stuff. I don't know why. There's always like a lot of pictures and a lot of links and a lot of music, and they're always really fun for me to grade. Not that I'm biased. You guys across the subjects can do that, but something about my music students. So this student really kind of went through and marked, these are all the ways the student is literate in music, having the musical terms, and she found one article when she was doing the outline by Pulowski that she was like, okay, this one is one that I think I'm going to use. She had others by the time she got her project done, but that was one she liked. So what she thought was, I think it was band. I'm 100% sure this was band. My problem for inquiry for the students would be, what is the relation of racial prejudice in the late 19th century America with Anton Dvorak's Symphony No. 9, The New World? So how did racial prejudice influence or not influence the composition? So she'd give the students the music to look at, and then she would also give them an article to read. She has them watching a video. By the end of the project, she also had them listening to it, of course, on some kind of recording. And then she has them going through and doing some activities. She has them having a discussion in groups of 3. And so we talked about strategies for doing that and having them kind of maybe do like a jigsaw method here. She kind of liked that idea. And then she has them working groups to put together a persuasive argument. It ended up in the final product being a presentation. She had them putting together like an online presentation using Prezi. And then in the end, she wanted each child to do an outline just for their side of the argument and to turn that in. So she's got some strategies for writing and stuff. I think if I remember correctly, by the time she got done with communicating claims, she started to do that iResearch paper format because she thought the outline would be terribly boring for the kids. Outlines don't always warrant themselves to being so fun. So let me look. I have 2 art ones I think I'll talk about. This student didn't, cite any research yet in the outline, but just said, art, you have to understand how to produce art by knowing the mediums, the history, and the importance of artists. So that was like her working definition for literacy in art, which I think is appropriate. So she goes through, she did get dinged. She's not citing any, anything here for explaining how she came across this definition, what research or reading helped her with that. But her question, and this is for, I think, Art 1 in high school, is why do we have so many different painting mediums and how are they similar or different? So that was like just a compare contrast paper type thing with her kids. She didn't choose a text, and so she lost points there. And I had to explain to her that she needed to pick a text. She could tell the kids that they needed to read a famous artist's biography or autobiography or a current artist's blog online. That's reading, guys. That's good. She decided she wanted to show some Bob Ross videos. Yes. And then she said, okay, we're going to have some discussions, and then I'm going to have them actually try it themselves, try the art methods themselves, and then develop medium handling. And I said, well, it's got some good art methods in here, and I love it, but we need to work on some literacy methods as well. So she ended up going with a journaling as part. She had them doing journals, I think, and she said the option was to blog instead of journal. And then she also went through and did what's the bracket called? A fishbone bracket with the kids, where it's a different kind of concept strategy, but it looks like a little fish and you have the line through it. It almost looks like diagramming a sentence. And you go through and put the different mediums on there and you label them and you compare and contrast. And then I told her, I said, if they don't want to do a fishbone, you could also just offer a Venn diagram. Kids can do a Venn diagram. And so that was her alternate as well. So this, I think, is my, nope, I have one more art one. Let me go back. So this student, she did really well on her final project, but I wanted to show you how she brought together actually art lab and performing art to the literacy part of the class. So she was adamant that she was going to do, first it was ceramics, and then she decided to change, and she decided to do that students had to create 2D or 3D responses to an artwork that they viewed. So they had to do like a reflection of some art that they have seen. And I thought this was really great. She went through and talked about, you know, they're going to find the mediums, they're going to find the artists, they're going to find information, they're doing all this research, and then they're writing a summary. So when we finally workshopped this together for the paper, it became, hey, you can't just give kids a research project. You can't just give them a writing assignment. Let's figure out ways to support them through the process. Let's scaffold it together. And so we came up with ideas of having kids first share their topics, do peer review, do outlines, all of these types of things of the writing that they were doing. And then they created 2D or 3D media that she wanted them to make videos. She wanted them to, what's the other option? Collages. There's a whole bunch of them that she came up with. But it really worked for the physical art. I thought that was good. This is my math one. So at first glance, what do you think about this? Your faces are pretty funny right now. Emily's like, it looks like it's missing half of the assignment. Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, what is this? She's got a good idea though. Okay, so it's pre-algebra. I knew I couldn't remember if it was algebra or pre-algebra. So she has what everybody puts down for their disciplinary literacy definition. It's the ability to read, write, and think, or problem solve, reason, and analyze. You guys always use your great Bloom's verbs. Love it, love it. But we have to explain how we came to that definition. So I got this and I said, hey, have you gotten into the journals yet? Have you typed in pre-algebra disciplinary literacy or pre-algebra literacy? She was like, no. I was like, do that. How many hits do you get? And she was like, 600. Right? There's a lot out there about the literacy of math because math is hard for a lot of people. And so she found all the research she needed to really formulate her definition. And that is what I'm expecting on the outline. She got a 9 on this assignment. A 9. This is not acceptable because I want to see that you're putting in the work now so that your final draft's much easier. So she got dinged on that. And then she said, well, my problem is the students are going to add, subtract, and multiply integers. I was like, that's an SOL. I Googled it and put it in. It comes right from the VA SOL. That's not a problem. And so my question to her was, and this is where some of you are asking, like, how do I come up with it? When in real life would students do this? When in real life, think of a word problem, would students do one of these functions? So edit it to be a real life situation and then walk the kids through. Show them a video of that real life scenario. If they're building a bridge, show them a video of a bridge being built. You know, she ended up adding a lot of vocabulary. She did put in, you can see here, the anticipation guide, and many of you said you like those anticipation guides. So I'm expecting to see a lot of those on your outline. Many of you said you like the KWLs and the Kahoots and that kind of thing. She ended up doing a ton of vocabulary. So she ended up doing like a word wall and lots of different things to have students really familiarize yourself with the terminology that they need to be able to do pre-algebra. It ended up being a fun little project. And she was K-12 sped. So she was anticipating that she would be the co-teacher here and she would be helping to teach pre-algebra. So, and last but not least, here we go. This student copy and pasted all of this from, let me make you guys smaller so I can see my screen, from the Virginia Department of Education SOL list. Your definition of literacy for like your subject area, for instance, English, cannot be one SOL. What we're talking about is if you are in a meeting with all your fellow English peers, you know, and say you had the whole district there, which you will, and it's all the secondary English teachers, and you're having that pre-service week, and you guys are having a discussion about what literacy is in English, 6 through 12. That's what I'm looking for here. And then your friends would say, well, how did you get that definition? Well, according to this person, right? I read this article, I learned this. You don't want to copy and paste from any of the websites here. While she was a little off here in the beginning, I thought her project, once she was able to put the research in and really think about literacy, was good. So she has, the problem is that students need to use knowledge of Greek and Latin root words to define new words. And so we defined that a little more. I had her pick a handful of these words that she would give the kids, and they had to be able to use them as part of their job. So she picked ones that were related to, I think, being a lawyer or something like that. There is a lot of Latin terminology in law. So we set that all up as a problem. You know, she had a guy on trial for murder. It was like a whole thing. And then she originally had planned to show all these history videos of ancient Rome and ancient Greece, and we scrapped it. And we showed kids what the courtroom looks like. And we showed them lawyers using the dialogue and the words in their speeches so that kids could see these words are real and they're used today. And then she has all these links to all these activities that she got off the internet. Yeah, I am 100% okay if you find really great free licensed worksheets and activities and anticipatory sets and KWLs and graphic organizers for your content area that you want to use as part of your lesson. You do not have to create every single strategy. You have to have 3 in each of these yourself. Are you going to find something for every single idea? No, you're going to have to create a couple of them. But if you find, as she did, this word root game and you really like it, use it. If you want to make a bingo card like I did, put the bingo card link in here. Show me what it looks like. And so it kind of worked out. Whew. It's always a lot. Hey, Thomas, you're out of the garage. Yay. So, what do you think about the examples? Were those helpful? You can always go back and watch this video too and kind of think about it. Let's take a few minutes and let's look at my response to you. So I'm going to message it out to you on your phone. Okay. And I'm also going to send it on Zoom. So just give me one sec. My computer is so slow. There you go. So you just got a chat from me. It has the Google Doc that I made from the questions. Okay. So I put all the questions on here and I answered them the best way I could. The first question was about APA citations and adding that in the paragraphs. And the website that I typically direct students to, if you're still struggling with your English and writing, and some of you are juniors, so I know you're still developing your college writing. is the OWL website. It's from Purdue University, but they show you exactly how the citations should look. And my computer's going to die. Just ignore that. It's okay, Emily. It actually can go quite a long time on 9%. Trust me on that one. But it looks, it tells you exactly how the paper should look. It tells you exactly how your citation should look. And you can even look up things here, like if you're looking for how to cite a book, or you're looking for just general format of the way, you know, a document looks. And so they'll tell you all of that. Heads up, if you don't know, APA just changed to a new edition. So the APA that you had to use a year ago, it's not the same APA. I'm not going to be picky. I'm not going to say, oh no, Marley, this is 6th edition APA and you need to use 7th. I'm not going to do that, even though the English teacher in me wants to be like, hey, it's not an English class. But just know, going forward, APA has updated. So the next year will be that shift from 6 to 7. I also gave you a link to the online writing center. Just so you guys know, the writing center is offering online appointments or online hours by appointment only. So if you need help, if you want someone to just look it over, schedule on this link here. I'm dying faster today than usual. You guys are going to get a tour of my house. It's not very clean. There's kid stuff everywhere. I had to go in the kitchen because my husband yelled at me and told me I was too loud. There we go. Oh. All right. Okay, so then one of you asked about art and your idea for the project. And I talked a lot about your art is a content area. You can pick one of the core credits, one of the art classes for high school and, you know, be the art teacher. But if you're more interested in art integration and working with, you know, say 5th grade teachers and helping them put art in their lessons, this is how you would do it. So you would come in and you would buddy up with a teacher. And I said, you know, what about science? So what if you work with a science teacher that says, you know, hey, my SOL for art is that students in 8th grade synthesize prior knowledge and experience to create works of art. Activating prior knowledge. We've talked about that all semester. So you could go to the science teacher and say, hey, one of your SOLs is that kids need to be able to investigate solids, liquids, and gases. Let's have them make a big art project on solids, liquid, and gases and everything they already know before you start teaching it. Let's have them create, you know, trifold boards. Let's have them use clay and Play-Doh and create different physical examples of what they know. Let's have them make a collage, you know, for 8th graders. So lots of ideas there. I haven't ever had an art major do this project, you know, working with a content teacher, but I think if you want to, you can, and I'm happy to help you with it. Most art majors stick to their art subject and plan their lessons as if the kids are in the art classroom with them. Let's see. Yes, you have to have, it says here, are we including activities within the essay? Yes, include the activities within the essay. You can include the links, you can include the diagram that you made, whatever it is, you can include it right in there. You know, you think if you have 9 strategies, that might take up 3 pages at least of the 7 pages for the requirement. So a special education major, if I sign on one content area, can I change it later? Once the outline is in, that's done because you only have about a week and a half to finish the project. So decide now for your outline and then stick with that for the project. Let's see here. Can I use a lesson plan I created for another class? No, you may not. It's against honor code. You can't recycle work. You also can't really recycle work because you just learned all the strategies. So that would be really weird. For PE or health, do we have to choose one? Yes, you should. But the standards don't really break it down that way. For instance, when I come here, you know, here are the SOLs. I'm gonna make myself smaller here. these are the SOLs for PE for K through 12. And so when you come in here and you say, okay, well, let me just pick third grade. So here are all the third grade SOLs, right? And that's how they're written. They're not really broken down as if like this one is a health one and this one is a physical education or, gym one. And so what you want to do is really just think about which ones lend themselves more to the health development. And for instance, here in ninth grade, where was I losing my mind here? Like this one, the safety stuff, that's usually talked a lot about in both the lab and the health room. So it goes back and forth, and you can choose the environment that works best for you. For SPED and elementary majors, can you focus on science? Yes, you can pretend like you're working with the high school chemistry teacher or the high school physics teacher, earth science, biology, middle school, that's physical science is what they call it in science. So you're welcome to do that. The class is set up for all disciplines, so all the strategies work for everyone, which is why everyone takes it. You could do a KWL with theater students, just like you could do a KWL with science students. So it's not really a difference. Due date, everything's on the course schedule. What is the project about? So I gave you the 3 headings for the project. You can look at the project assignment sheet there. Is this a lesson to teach students in our class about literacy? Nope, this is teaching your content area. So teaching them to be literate in your discipline. So what does it mean to be literate in PE? What does it mean to be literate in history? What does it mean to be literate in music? That's what we're doing here. How have I been? Pretty good. So once again, PE is a discipline. So how are you going to teach them the discipline that you need to teach them? So here under sources, I put you should be using academic resources. You should be using academic and education resources. Like for instance, I'm okay if you find a really great website or really great article through, say, the National Councils for PE Teachers, and you want to use it. If you have a question about something and you're not sure if it's a good, reliable resource, send it to me and I'll look at it for you and I'll help you evaluate it. Most students stick to the textbook and the articles they've already read for the annotated bibliography, plus maybe one discipline-specific article. But like I said, you might find some really great stuff out there. You might find this 30-year veteran PE teacher's blog and say, look at all these strategies, like look at all this stuff that he's doing. This is great. And that would be a great resource to also use. Let's see, can we use previous resources? Most people do. Most people stick to, the book and the articles. Can we put pictures in? No, the pictures wouldn't count towards your, 7 pages unless the pictures are, say, of an infographic or tool or graphic organizer that you're using as part of the activity. So if you tell me I want my kids to do a foursquare and you actually make the little foursquare and you show it, then that would be, okay. But there really won't be a lot of pictures. For those of you who are art teachers and you're planning to have students evaluate art and look at art, I would recommend putting them all in a Google Drive folder and linking it in your document. That usually is, as you saw in the examples, what most people do. 14 was very repetitive, question 2, so I just put C question 2. So you're creating one lesson plan here. And of that one lesson plan or unit plan, whatever you want to call it, you have to have at least 9 strategies, 3 for each D, E, and F. So you might plan, for example, to say, okay, my kids are going to do these 3 activities on Monday, these 3 activities on Tuesday, and these 3 activities on Wednesday. Or you might say, Monday through Friday. And so you got to think about the timing that you're doing everything and how big you want to do it. And I break that down even farther down here. So here's where I break it down based on the big idea. So once you decide what kind of topic or theme your students are learning about for this lesson plan or unit plan, you have to figure out how you're going to break it down. So my example here is maybe on day 1 of a 3-day lesson, you might have your kids do a KWL at the beginning of class, activating their prior knowledge, getting them to talk about it. That takes 5 minutes. Then you might say, okay, now we're going to do a jigsaw activity, and you would kind of break it down and show us how you did that. That maybe takes 45 minutes of the class period. Then you go over the homework, and their homework is they're going to create a graphic organizer, and they're doing that at home. So that's 3 strategies, and that's 1 class period, about an hour, maybe if you're teaching like middle school. And then the next day you might have 3 more strategies, and then you might have 3 more strategies. So you have to figure out the pacing of your class and how you envision it working. Every school is different. Some schools have 4x4, some schools have A-B block scheduling, some schools still have traditional 7 blocks. So my recommendation to you is to write the lesson plan or unit plan the way you're most comfortable. So if all of your learning experience has been in a block, 4x4, 90-minute class session, then plan for that. If as a student and maybe our observations have all been with 50-minute class sessions, then plan for that. So I'm not picky about the learning structure. You can pick whatever you're most comfortable with for right now. And I imagine when you're applying for jobs, you'll apply for districts that, teach the way you like. Like if you hate block scheduling, I don't anticipate that you would apply to teach at a school that uses it. Can we use the textbook? Yes, most people use pretty much everything from the book. What is it hard? Nope, the average is an A. At this point, you guys are very intelligent. You know your content area. You've written tons of lesson plans. It's more just figuring out how would I put literacy in. So what kind of reading would I give my students? What kind of strategies would I use to help them understand that reading? So if I'm teaching health and I'm teaching anatomy, how would I help my kids remember all the parts of the body and all the systems in the body? How would I help them with that? It just occurred to me too, I had one PE major, he was trying to do a reproductive system, and he was trying to find videos to teach kids, and it was really bad. He emailed me, he's like, do you know of anything that's appropriate that I could show kids? And I'm like, I'm not Googling it. So yeah, think about that too. Like what kind of topic is gonna make kids Google something inappropriate? Always something to think about. What kind of evidence do we need? Just reference where the strategies came from. Like that last example, she used a lot of stuff from Read, Write, Think. It's a great website with a lot of great like tools and worksheets. Just make sure you reference it and say, this is from this website and this is what I'm using. Summertime, I'm ready, but actually students are, I think, freaking out about the pandemic, and so many students have dropped classes that I have a full load this summer. I'm teaching 4 classes and I might just lose my mind. I'm struggling with PE and movement. I would say focus on health then. Pick one of the health topics and focus on that. And I think that might be easier because in your mind, when you picture health class, especially at the high school level, you probably picture kids having a health textbook and sitting in the classroom. Because sometimes at schools they'll have like 2 weeks in the gym, 2 weeks in the health class, and they'll kind of flip-flop depending on the block scheduling and the way it works. Same question about health. I said most people do focus on health. I think a mix is nice if you can think about it like that. But if at this point in your teaching, you're saying, okay, this is when I teach movement. This is when we work on, physical stretching and that type of thing. And then this is health. And this is when we focus on learning about the topics and expressing that they understand all these topics and how can you be safe and discussing. That's what I get from a lot of health people. There's a lot of discussion. Let me see what you guys are saying here about me. You guys are funny. Oh, a video on consent. That's nice. I definitely, so let me get out of here. I know, Michaela, I know it's so boring to talk about assignments, but you might find this video helpful when you're putting it all together. Maybe.
It's definitely becoming more clear on like what it's supposed to look like. Because I feel like before this, I was like, I have no clue what this should look like or where direction. Like I was trying to work on the outline. And I was like, I'm gonna wait.
No. You know me. I always show you like a million examples and give you like a format for everything. I know. One semester I taught this class. I thought, okay, we're gonna work on this assignment all semester. We're gonna do like each part each week. And I thought they were gonna cry. They didn't want to do it. Like each week we would say, like, how 1 week we did vocabulary? I'd have them create a vocabulary activity for their content area and turn that in as part of their grade. And then at the end, I had them take all those activities and put it together into one unit plan. And they hated it. I think it's much better to get to the end. Think about what in your content area you want to teach. What do you like teaching? And then build this kind of lesson, this unit around it. Where would I start if I was you? I would start by picking a part of the topic I like. And then from there, I would go through the book and any lectures, and I would pick my strategies. 3 strategies for D, E, and F, 3 and D, 3 and E, 3 and F, that you would like. And you might say, I'm not assigning all 3 of these strategies for D. I'm giving the kids the choice between these 3 strategies. Does that make sense? And that is the heart of differentiation. And we've talked a lot about this semester, saying to kids, hey, to activate your previous knowledge, you don't have to do the KWL. You can do something different. Here, do this anticipatory set, do this anticipatory activity, do this agree disagree activity. And high school kids especially appreciate when they're given a choice. So that is where I would begin. Your outline is due on Monday. But with the late policy, you really have to Wednesday. So you have about a week to work on it and to really, flesh out what your definition is based on whatever you've read. If I was you, I would go into ODU online library first, type in your subject area, type in literacy or disciplinary literacy, and see what comes up that's recent, like within the last decade. And see what people who have been teaching for 25 years in your content area have said, this is how I teach literacy. And look at the strategies that they use. Those articles are going to give you more strategies. They're going to say, here's how I taught elementary art literacy. I did this activity. I went to the Lowe's. I got all those paint squares. Remember, we did watch that video where she used all those paint squares. And I wrote the art terms on them and we did puzzles. And you'll say, yes, I'm taking all these strategies. I'm putting this in my lesson. This is great. And that's teaching. That's what you're going to do your first year teaching. You're going to say to the other teacher, your mentor teacher, hey, how do you teach this? Let me see your lesson. Let me see your assignment. Let me see your lectures. So you might find a ton of stuff in articles once you start looking. Or you might say, I'm just going to go through the book and I'm going to pick some strategies and put them in there. And then when I teach, I may or may not give them a shot. And that's okay too. Sorry, I was reading your chat. Don't be stressed. Okay. Anything else about just the outline, just this first step that we're working on? How many of you prefer to outline on a Word doc? You like to just type it up, have it kind of look like the assignment sheet? I knew Rayvon would say yes. He's an outline guy. He likes things to be just so. How many of you would prefer to use a technology to do an outline? Let me show you some stuff before I let you go. Because even though when we created this assignment, Jamie and I, we planned for students to do this in Microsoft Word, I've recently started telling students, there's a lot of cool tools you can do to make an outline, and I wouldn't care if you use them. One of them is MindMeister. So this is my graduate class. It's a little bit different. But this is how she set up her outline for the graduate class reflection. This is I got the hiccups all of a sudden, excuse me, MindMeister. So she created a free account. I think you can have 2 or 3. And then what it does is it creates the nodes. You just hit plus and you can add to it. And she has all her points here. It's kind of cool. Another one that students like is Bubble. And this is one from the grad class as well. Okay, so here, this is the title here in yellow. You can color code here. And then in light green, it's supposed to be light green and dark green. I know, you can't tell. That's exactly what I said. She has the 3 parts, and then the dark green are the subparts within here. So maybe you like this. Maybe you'd rather do this on Bubble. You could also do this on Padlet. That's another tool that you could also do. The last one, where is it? I've got to remember what it's called. It's called Wordly. Let me find my slide. Yeah, it's called Workflowy. There, I messed that name all up. So there it goes. Workflowy, I don't have an example in that, but Workflowy creates an outline very similar to MindMeister. However, it looks more like Microsoft Word. So that's the only difference there. Your project is due the April 20th, the outline of the project. So those 3 Roman numerals with their subparts, just draft it out. You have till Wednesday with the late policy. Use the Roman numerals in the format given. Be sure there's 3 strategies for each section. Your strategies can come from the book, come from an article, come from a reliable source, the lectures, whatever you want to use to, teach your kids about your subject. You can use Word, but you can also use a link. If you use one of these tools, make sure the link's public and just paste it in when you go into Blackboard. So instead of attaching a Word doc, you would just paste it in the notes section. And then I can click it and I can view it myself. On Thursday, we are going to look at one example from each content area. So I'll show you one history, one music, one art, and then I'll pick, I'll do an English one, of course, but then I'll pick, and then we'll have one PE. I'll pick one of the others, maybe algebra again, for my K-12, just in case you're thinking, hey, I don't think I have any science, but I don't think I want to do like English or history. I think I have an algebra K-12 one I can show you. And so I'll show you one from each of those. And then I also have a checklist for you that I like students to complete when they turn in the final. So they make sure that you hit all of the things you're supposed to as a target. All right. Anyone considering using a tech tool instead of Microsoft Word? It's okay. You don't have to. I'm just putting it out there just in case, they do have mobile apps. So if you're a person that likes to kind of work from your phone or your iPad, then you could also download the MindMeister app and you could use it. So just a thought. All right. It's exactly 4 o'clock. So unless you guys have questions, I'll let you go. Please don't work on your outline right now. You just sat in class for an hour. Go get some fresh air like Andrea. Go take a walk away from people, of course. One of my students told me she was getting ready to go to Walmart. She's like, yeah, me and my friends are going to Walmart. I'm like, what? Stay away from people, but enjoy the rest of your day and maybe start working on your outline tomorrow. It is due Monday. I'd love it if you got it done by then, but if it's Wednesday, that's okay. I will get you feedback within 24 hours. So if you submit it on Monday, I'll be sending you feedback on Tuesday. If you submit it on Wednesday, you'll be getting that feedback on Thursday. Okay? Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day. Go get some vitamin D.